Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in. Today we're diving into a heavy but crucial topic: how to prepare for mass casualty events, including active shooter situations, bombings, and coordinated attacks. These incidents can happen unexpectedly in places most of us assume are safe: schools, workplaces, shopping malls, public events, and sometimes in our neighborhoods. The fact that they can occur just about anywhere is unsettling. But developing the right knowledge and mindset can genuinely make a difference if you ever find yourself in the midst of one. Before we get into the heart of it, I want to ask for your help in spreading this essential information. Please subscribe to the channel, share this video with your friends, and take a look at the tagged products listed in the video. These resources can help you build or improve your preparedness toolkit, so you're more equipped in a crisis. Knowledge is power, and the right gear can be a lifesaver. Let's talk about why it's vital to understand the different types of mass casualty events. Active shooters are often what people imagine first: someone with a firearm targeting a group of people in a public or semi-public setting. Unfortunately, bombings and coordinated multi-site attacks aren't any less significant. Bombings can happen in crowded public squares, near iconic landmarks, inside buildings, or even from rigged vehicles. Coordinated attacks might involve multiple perpetrators, or a mix of tactics, such as simultaneous shootings and bombings that overwhelm law enforcement. Each type of event has its own characteristics, yet they share some common threads. They're fast, they aim for maximum confusion, and they often rely on the element of surprise. The tactics employed by attackers shift over time. Some assailants are lone actors inspired by ideologies or personal grievances, while others are part of organized groups. At times, the motivations might not even be clear to the public, but the effect is the same: chaos, fear, and potential casualties. One reason it's important to recognize evolving threats is that it helps you stay one step ahead mentally. If you assume these events always happen in certain locations, you might let your guard down in other places. By adopting a broader perspective, one that acknowledges a threat can emerge anywhere, you put yourself in a better position to respond proactively rather than reactively. A key takeaway is that while these incidents tend to be rare compared to other dangers in daily life, their high-impact nature means preparing for them is still worthwhile. Think of it as a type of insurance policy for your safety and the safety of your loved ones. Don't let anxiety rule your life, but do be aware that a little forethought can go a long way. The first step in preparing is developing an adaptable mindset, which we'll explore next. Mindset is the foundation of preparedness. Without a clear head, it's easy to either overreact to everyday scenarios or underreact when a genuine threat arises. Striking that balance, staying calmly alert, is a life skill that transcends mass casualty events. It applies to personal safety in general, whether you're walking alone at night or traveling in an unfamiliar city. You may have heard of situational awareness. This term is often used by security experts and law enforcement officers, but it's not exclusive to them. Think of situational awareness as a relaxed scanning of your surroundings, noticing who is around you, what they're doing, and whether anything seems out of place. If you're in a restaurant, you might casually look for the exits, glance at the people nearby, and gauge the general mood. Are most folks eating, chatting, and minding their own business? Or is someone acting strangely, pacing, or sweating profusely? You're not glaring at people or letting paranoia sink in. You're just staying quietly conscious of what's happening. That awareness can give you precious seconds to respond effectively if a threat emerges. A related concept is the OODA Loop: observe, orient, decide, and act. Initially developed for fighter pilots, it can guide everyday decisions. When you enter a new environment, observe any unusual details. Orient yourself by understanding what those details might mean in context. Is that person pacing in agitation because they're upset, or are they simply waiting for someone who's late? Once you interpret your observations, decide if you need to take a particular action, such as moving away from a certain area, keeping an eye on someone, or even notifying staff or security if something is truly suspicious. Act on that decision. In many cases, the action is simply continuing to observe. However, in an emergency, the moment to act might involve exiting the building quickly or helping someone who appears distressed. Another aspect of mindset is mental rehearsal. Athletes visualize their performance before they compete, and you can apply a similar technique to stay calm under pressure. Occasionally, imagine different scenarios and how you'd respond. For example, if you're at the movies, where would you go if you heard what sounded like a gunshot? Could you hide behind a row of seats, or is there a nearby fire exit you noticed when you walked in? This mental exercise might feel a bit strange at first, but it plants seeds of action in your mind, so you're less likely to freeze if something actually goes wrong. Staying calm doesn't mean you're emotionless. Fear is a natural response to danger, and it sharpens your senses. The goal is to keep that fear from morphing into panic. Harness the adrenaline to focus on your priorities. Escape, helping others if possible, and staying alive. Ground yourself by taking slow, steady breaths. A few controlled breaths can lower your heart rate and help you think more clearly. As you practice situational awareness and mental rehearsal, you'll discover a sweet spot between complacency and hypervigilance. Nobody wants to live in a perpetual state of alarm, scanning crowds frantically as if the world is a battlefield. Instead, you want to cultivate a soft vigilance where you're relaxed yet aware. That type of balanced mindset is the gateway to effective preparation, which brings us to the next topic: the practical steps you can take before an incident even begins. There's a saying that goes, "You don't rise to the occasion, you fall to your level of training." This is especially true in high-stress, life-threatening situations. So let's get into concrete ways you can prepare before you ever find yourself in a mass casualty event. One of the first and most straightforward strategies is to tailor your everyday carry, sometimes abbreviated as EDC. This might be as simple as having a small pouch with medical essentials. Adhesive bandages, antiseptic wipes, gauze pads, and gloves are the basics you can build on. If you live in an area where it's legal and you're trained, consider including a tourniquet, a pressure dressing, and hemostatic gauze. Wound packing and bleeding control are incredibly important in emergencies. Even if you're not a medical professional, a Stop the Bleed course or a basic first aid class can give you the confidence to apply these tools effectively. Apart from medical gear, some sort of small flashlight is often overlooked. Darkness and emergencies go hand in hand, whether you're suddenly trapped in a building with the lights out or searching for something in your car at night. A phone flashlight can help, but phone batteries may drain fast, and phones can get lost or damaged in the chaos. Having a separate, durable flashlight can be a game changer. Similarly, a power bank or portable charger ensures your phone remains usable for critical communication if local infrastructure is compromised or you're stuck waiting for rescue. Clothing choices matter more than people realize. You don't have to wear tactical gear daily, but consider how you'd move if you had to run, crawl, or climb in an emergency. If your job or lifestyle demands formal attire or fancy shoes, you might keep a spare set of more functional shoes in your car or bag. Being able to move quickly and comfortably can literally save your life. Another big piece of the preparedness puzzle is home readiness. Think about placing sturdy locks on your doors, reinforcing your door frames, and ensuring your windows are secure. Window film that prevents shards from flying around in an explosion can be a worthwhile investment. Motion-activated exterior lights around your home can alert you to unusual movements at night. Beyond security, basic supplies like bottled water, non-perishable food, and a battery-powered radio can help you shelter in place if necessary. If a mass casualty event shuts down certain parts of your city or disrupts transportation routes, you'll be relieved to have a small stockpile of essentials. Vehicles can also serve as extensions of your preparedness. Stock your trunk with emergency items: water, energy bars, a blanket, a reflective vest, and a well-equipped first aid kit. Keep a glass breaker and seatbelt cutter within reach of the driver's seat so you're not fumbling in the glove box when seconds matter. If you're forced to evacuate by car, you want to do so knowing that your tires are in good shape, your gas tank is at least half full, and you have a viable route to get out. GPS can fail, so having paper maps of your region can be a saving grace in unfamiliar territory or during network outages. Family or group communication plans are also critical. Decide on a couple of different meeting places, one near your home, one a bit farther away, and maybe another in a different town. If phone lines are overwhelmed, text messages might still get through. Code words or phrases can be helpful for quick, urgent signals that something is wrong without triggering alarm in those around you or tipping off a potential threat. This kind of planning might feel extreme, but having a structured plan can keep you and your loved ones from scattering in every direction if chaos unfolds. All these small steps add layers to your safety net. You won't have time to prepare in the heat of a crisis, so handle these details now. Then you can live more confidently, knowing you have a plan and the tools necessary to protect yourself. We're about to dive into the specifics of active shooter scenarios and how you can apply what we've covered so far in those tense situations. Active shooter events have sadly become one of the more publicized threats. They often unfold in crowded public spaces, schools, shopping centers, concerts, offices, places of worship. The immediate shock factor can freeze people in place. Seconds can mean the difference between life and death, so understanding how to respond is key. Most of us have heard the phrase, run, hide, fight. It's taught by various security experts and recommended by many government agencies. But it's worth taking a closer look at each word. Running might sound obvious, but people underestimate how confusion and panic can disrupt a straightforward escape. If you hear gunshots or see someone brandishing a weapon, your first instinct should be to get as far away as possible, provided there's a safe route. Encourage others to come with you, but if they hesitate, you must prioritize your own safety. As you run, try to keep low and use cover to shield yourself if the shooter is nearby. Running in irregular patterns can also make it harder for a potential attacker to aim at you. Hiding becomes essential if there's no clear path to escape. If you're stuck in a building, look for a room or closet you can lock or barricade. This could mean pushing heavy desks, cabinets, or anything else against the door. Turn off the lights, silence your phone, and stay away from windows. If you're with a group, spreading out so you're not in one cluster can help reduce casualties if a shooter enters the room. This is also a good time to remember the difference between concealment and cover. Concealment means you're hidden from view, but it might not stop bullets. Cover is something substantial that could actually block projectiles, such as a concrete pillar or a thick metal door. Whenever possible, choose cover over mere concealment. Fighting is the last resort, reserved for when your life is in immediate danger and there's no reasonable chance to escape or hide safely. In a moment of crisis, the prospect of charging at an armed individual is terrifying, but waiting passively could be worse. If you decide to fight, commit fully. Use whatever items are at hand: chairs, fire extinguishers, heavy objects. If there are multiple people with you, coordinate your efforts. Swarming the attacker from different angles can increase your odds of disarming or subduing them. The key is to disrupt their ability to aim and fire effectively. When law enforcement arrives, your priorities shift again. Police and SWAT teams might yell abrupt commands to take control of the scene quickly. Show them your empty hands, avoid sudden movements, and follow directions. If you have critical information, like the shooter's description or the last place they were seen, relay it calmly and briefly. This is not the time to panic or scream. Law enforcement needs concise details to neutralize the threat. One detail many overlook is the psychological aftershock. Surviving an active shooter scenario is a traumatic experience for most. It's normal to feel intense fear, confusion, or even guilt afterward. This is one reason debriefing and psychological support are essential once the dust settles. We'll get more into how to handle the emotional fallout later. Next, let's cover bombing incidents, which present a different set of challenges. Bombings can be sudden and disorienting, often because the source of danger isn't immediately visible like a gunman. The nature of an explosion, its blast wave, shrapnel, and the potential collapse of surrounding structures adds layers of complexity to survival. If you suspect a bomb might be in the area, trust your gut and alert the authorities. Suspicious objects might include unattended bags or packages in unusual places, vehicles parked oddly or heavily weighted, or even chemical odors if it's a homemade device. However, many bombs are designed to blend in, so you can't always rely on obvious signs. When an explosion does occur, the immediate danger comes from the shock wave and debris. Dropping to the ground, covering your head and neck, and turning away from windows can help reduce injuries. If you're indoors, it's vital to figure out if the building's structural integrity is compromised. Broken gas lines or downed power lines might pose additional threats like fires or electrocution hazards. Keep that situational awareness we've been discussing at the forefront of your mind, scanning for secondary dangers that could turn a bad situation worse. It's also worth noting that some attackers plant secondary devices to target the rush of first responders or fleeing crowds. This is where your mindset and training come into play. You'll want to avoid large groups if you can and continue scanning for anything else that might be out of place. If you see a package in an odd location while evacuating, point it out to authorities, but don't investigate it yourself. Glass and other shrapnel flying through the air injures more people in bombings than the actual blast in some cases. Stay away from large panes of glass if you can. Moving perpendicular to windows or standing behind something solid can shield you. If you find yourself close to the blast site, be ready to administer basic first aid. You might see traumatic injuries, including severe bleeding, so having a tourniquet or knowing how to pack a wound can mean the difference between life and death. After you exit the immediate danger zone, you might see paramedics setting up triage areas. They'll prioritize who needs urgent care based on the severity of injuries. Be mindful that adrenaline can mask your own injuries for a while. Once you're out of harm's way, do a quick self-check to see if you're hurt, even if you think you're fine. Next, let's talk about an even more complex threat: coordinated or multi-site attacks. Coordinated or multi-site attacks raise the stakes by striking multiple targets simultaneously or in quick succession. This could be a scenario where multiple shooters operate in different parts of a city, or where bombs go off in various locations. The sheer confusion can overwhelm law enforcement and emergency services as they juggle numerous calls and uncertain intel. In these situations, clear information is often scarce. You might hear conflicting reports about what areas are safe. Online rumors may spread rapidly, adding to the chaos. The best approach is to rely on official alerts, such as emergency broadcasts or messages from recognized local and national agencies. However, you should also apply common sense. If official channels tell you to evacuate an area, but you see signs of immediate danger along that route, you might need to adapt quickly. If you're out in public during a multi-site incident, your safest bet might be to get indoors somewhere secure and hunker down until you have clarity on where the threats are. If you're already at home and your home isn't compromised, staying put might be the best move. Communication with your family or group is crucial. This is where your prearranged plan comes into play, having designated meeting points or code phrases so you don't waste time figuring out how to link up under stressful circumstances. Something to keep in mind is that coordinated attacks often aim to create sustained panic rather than a single flash of violence. The perpetrators might rely on the terror factor to cause ripple effects across an entire region. Stay calm and think logically. If a major highway is shut down due to a reported threat, know your alternative routes. If you can't use your primary route home, consider secondary and tertiary roads or public transportation options. If you can't contact your loved ones by phone, see if messaging apps still work, or consider using a two-way radio if you own one. Continue to observe your surroundings and remain adaptive. If you're in the middle of a multi-location assault, events may evolve hour by hour or even minute by minute. The ability to pivot your plans based on new information is a major asset. Next, we'll dive into what often becomes most crucial in the immediate aftermath of violence: medical intervention. When violence erupts, professional medical help may be delayed by traffic jams, overwhelmed phone lines, or the sheer volume of people needing assistance. That's why learning basic trauma care can be a life-saving skill set. Even a few minutes of direct action can mean the difference between life and death, especially in cases of severe bleeding or compromised airways. Managing hemorrhage is typically the top priority. If someone has a deep laceration or a gunshot wound, use your gauze, clothing, or any clean material you can find to apply direct pressure. Press firmly, and don't keep peeking to see if the bleeding stopped. You want consistent pressure that allows clots to form. If the wound is on a limb and the bleeding is profuse, a tourniquet might be necessary. Commercial tourniquets are built for quick application, but in a pinch, a belt or sturdy fabric can serve as a makeshift option if placed correctly. The key is to cut off blood flow above the injury, but do so with the understanding that improvised tourniquets are generally less reliable or safe than a properly designed one. Wound packing is also valuable when a tourniquet isn't feasible, such as for injuries to the groin, neck, or shoulder areas. You'd take gauze, ideally hemostatic gauze if you have it, and pack the wound firmly, then maintain pressure on top. Keep pressing until help arrives or the bleeding stops. Hemostatic agents can accelerate clotting, which is critical for arterial bleeds. Airway management is the second major concern. If someone is unconscious but still breathing, placing them in the recovery position on their side can keep their airway open and reduce the risk of choking. In scenarios involving chest wounds, a simple chest seal can prevent tension pneumothorax if a lung is punctured. That might sound like medical jargon, but it basically means you're trying to keep air from entering the chest cavity and collapsing a lung. You can improvise a chest seal with plastic wrap, sealing 3 sides so trapped air can escape while preventing outside air from getting in. Aside from stopping major bleeding and maintaining airways, consider the risk of shock. If someone is cold, clammy, and has a weak pulse, elevating their legs, unless there's an injury that would prevent it, can help blood flow to vital organs. Reassurance also plays a part. Talking calmly to the injured can lower their stress levels, which helps keep their heart rate and blood pressure more stable. In large-scale incidents, medical professionals might use color-coded triage tags to determine who gets treatment first. Those who are the most severely injured but still have a chance of survival take top priority. This might mean someone with minor injuries has to wait, which can be difficult to accept. Understanding how triage works can help you psychologically if you're ever in that position. Let's talk about another form of assistance that's just as vital: psychological first aid and stress management. Experiencing a mass casualty event can be deeply traumatic. Even if you weren't physically harmed, witnessing violence or narrowly escaping it can leave a profound emotional impact. While focusing on physical survival is paramount, preserving mental well-being is equally important for long-term recovery. Panic is a natural response to danger, but it impairs clarity of thought. If you feel your heart racing or your breathing quickening, take a moment to control your breath. Inhale steadily through your nose, hold it briefly, and exhale slowly through your mouth. This simple act can reduce the intensity of your fight or flight response, allowing you to think more clearly. If you see someone else in a panic, gently guide them through the same breathing exercise. Simple, verbal reassurance, telling them they're not alone, that you have a plan, or that help is on the way, can make a world of difference. In the immediate aftermath, you might encounter people who are in shock. They may appear numb, disoriented, or detached. Speaking calmly, using their name, and guiding them to safety can anchor them back to reality. If you have water to offer or can lead them to a safe space away from the chaos, do so. That kind of support can ground them in a moment of upheaval. Processing the emotional turmoil doesn't end when the immediate danger passes. Survivors' guilt, anxiety, nightmares, or flashbacks are common psychological reactions. Seeking professional counseling or joining a support group can help normalize these feelings and provide coping strategies. It's also beneficial to re-establish your daily routine as much as possible, including regular sleep, meals, and physical activity. Those small elements of normalcy go a long way in stabilizing your mental health. If children are involved, whether they're your kids, neighbors, or students, understand that they process trauma differently. Simple explanations about what happened, coupled with assurances of safety and normalcy, can help them heal. Repetitive play or drawing might be their way of working through the trauma, so be patient and supportive. We'll transition now to evacuation, communication, and coordination methods that can help you, your loved ones, and your community respond cohesively. Evacuating a building or area under duress can be one of the most chaotic experiences imaginable. Crowds might be surging in one direction, exits could be blocked, and misinformation can spread like wildfire. This is where the calm yet alert mindset we discussed can really make a difference. When an emergency breaks out, people often gravitate toward the door they entered through, leading to massive congestion. If you've maintained situational awareness, you'll already have a mental note of alternative exits. Heading for a side door or back exit might be quicker and safer. If a certain path appears blocked or overcrowded, don't hesitate to pivot and try another route. Speed is vital, but so is discernment. Communication in the midst of chaos can be challenging. Phone lines might crash under a surge of calls. Texting is often more reliable because it requires less bandwidth. Keep your messages short and convey only essential information, such as your location and condition. Something like, safe in corner of store, heading to east exit soon, is both efficient and informative. Social media can also play a role. People have used platforms like Twitter or Facebook to mark themselves safe or share real-time updates with loved ones. Of course, you should always verify information through trusted sources because rumors can spread just as quickly. If you can't reach the people you're responsible for, refer back to the communication plan you established earlier. Hopefully, you chose a rendezvous point outside the danger zone so everyone knows where to go if they're separated. Rely on your codes or signals if you can't explain the situation in detail. It might sound dramatic, but these precautions can significantly cut down on uncertainty and fear. allowing family members to focus on their own safe evacuation. Once you're clear of the danger zone, you might be directed to a staging area by law enforcement or emergency personnel. Follow their instructions because they usually have a broader overview of the threat landscape. If medical teams are setting up triage, be prepared to provide your contact information, a quick report of what you witnessed, and any relevant medical or personal details. Collaboration doesn't end with the official responders. In large-scale events, community volunteers often play key roles, from handing out water to helping with basic first aid. If you have specific training, medical, language skills, or logistical planning, let the authorities know. They might need extra hands, especially if traditional emergency services are stretched thin. The more people work together, the faster order can be restored. Next, we'll explore what comes next in the days, weeks, and months following a mass casualty event. Once the immediate danger has subsided, the aftermath can bring a different kind of stress. Authorities might section off large areas for investigation or set up checkpoints if they suspect there are still potential threats. Curfews could be enacted to keep streets clear for law enforcement. Staying updated through official channels, like your local government's website, credible news outlets, or emergency alert apps, remains crucial. Don't rely solely on rumors or hearsay, because misinformation can lead to unnecessary fear or even put you in harm's way. If you own property in the affected area, you'll want to document any damage once it's safe to return. Take photos or videos and keep a record of what happened. This information will be invaluable for insurance claims, legal matters, or any relief efforts that might be offered. Similarly, if you receive medical treatment, compile all your bills and discharge papers in one folder. Having everything organized helps you navigate the red tape that sometimes follows large-scale incidents. The psychological toll doesn't vanish overnight. Whether you're dealing with personal loss, injuries, or the shock of witnessing violence, give yourself and those around you permission to grieve and heal. Local authorities, nonprofits, or faith-based groups often set up counseling services or support networks. Engaging with these resources can help you process your emotions and forge connections with others who face similar experiences. On the community level, many neighborhoods mobilize after such events. They form or strengthen watch programs, coordinate training on how to respond to active shooters or disasters, and advocate for improved security measures in public spaces. Being part of that community response can help channel the collective fear and anger into proactive improvements, creating a sense of unity. People who have lived through a traumatic event often say that rebuilding together fosters resilience and helps individuals move forward. It can also be beneficial to perform a personal or family debrief once you've had time to recover. Review what worked, what didn't, and what adjustments are needed for your preparedness plan. Maybe you realized that you needed extra phone chargers, or that one of your meeting spots wasn't accessible when roads were blocked. Iterating on your plan ensures that you and your loved ones are even better prepared should you face another emergency down the line. We're going to bring everything together in the conclusion, giving you key points to remember and some final thoughts on staying prepared without letting fear rule your life. Thank you for watching and for taking the time to delve into this extensive discussion on mass casualty event preparedness. We've covered a lot of territory, from understanding modern threats and cultivating the right mindset, to learning practical pre-incident preparations and immediate response tactics for active shooter, bombing, and coordinated attack scenarios. We also discussed critical medical interventions, psychological first aid, and how to handle the aftermath of these traumatic events. If there's one message to take away, it's that knowledge and preparation empower you to act quickly and decisively. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, share this video with people who might benefit, and check out the tagged products listed in the video. Those resources can help you build a more robust preparedness kit and refine your overall safety plan. Life is filled with risks, most of which we accept quietly, like driving a car or crossing a busy street. Mass casualty events are less common, but their impact can be devastating. By practicing situational awareness, having the right tools at the ready, and knowing how to help yourself and others medically and psychologically, you give yourself a fighting chance if you ever encounter a violent crisis. This isn't about living in fear. It's about being responsibly prepared. With the guidance we've explored, you can face an uncertain world with greater confidence and peace of mind. Stay safe, stay informed, and keep an eye on your surroundings. Remember, a calm mindset and a well-thought-out plan can make all the difference in a life-threatening situation. Thank you again for watching, and I hope you'll join me next time as we continue exploring topics that help us all live smarter and more secure lives.